This is another two-part lecture video for Learning Module 3. And in this first part, I'm going to discuss 3 examples of playing in popular culture in dialogue with Christian understandings or rhetorics of play. So before COVID, the Patriot Center at George Mason University in Virginia hosted a regular, very eagerly anticipated sell-out sporting event called the Monster Truck Challenge. And joining this in an international craze, these well-educated, upper-middle-class suburbanites flocked to watch these huge, souped-up and tricked-out trucks with names like the Gravedigger and Bigfoot smash and roll over things. And these trucks take on personalities and anthropomorphic characteristics of strength and power to compete with each other. And they attract legions of loyal fans. And they still do these competitions virtually, by the way. And I don't know if you remember the reality show called Toddlers and Tiaras from a few years back, in which parents dress up their young daughters in these elaborate, sexualized finery dresses, including full makeup and sophisticated hairstyles, to compete in these cutthroat beauty pageants. A kind of a play as identity formation, trying to mold these children into miniature models of cultural female identity. And of course, we've just witnessed the spectacle of the Super Bowl with all of the hype and sense of festivity and religious-like fan devotion, perhaps an adaptation of play as power. But the popularity of these 3 activities, and perhaps you can think of others that are going on currently in our time, is indicative of what passes for play and entertainment in Western culture. And 2 of these examples are adults sort of using children or children's things for their own play. Monster truck jams use these big toys and they offer spectators a kind of out-of-time experience in which might and destructiveness win, and thrilling displays of automotive feats. And Toddlers and Tiaras, with its over-the-top costumes, provides parents, mostly mothers, with kind of a vicarious satisfaction in an opportunity to strut out in front of a crowd and flamboyantly in an otherwise kind of dull and mundane world. Now, this show has been called sick and abusive by critics and bloggers, yet people still watch it and download it. So both Monster Trucks and Toddlers and Tiaras have implications for the formation of gender identities and body images, and therefore implications for Christian theological reflection on sexuality. And we'll say more about that later on in the course. But to negatively judge these performances, as I've been doing, and the ethical values that they teach, and to see that as demeaning or frivolous, doesn't account for how compelling they are to people, and how they represent a kind of universal, everyday, ordinary folk sense of something to rally around, something to bring escape, and something to bring community. And could our negative judgments about this indeed flow from a kind of classist, elitist view or positionality? The Super Bowl made me think about how St. Paul used athletic metaphors for the Christian life: running the race, winning, staying the course, fighting the good fight. Winning being not, in his mind, so much for the individual's sake, not for power or acclaim, not about me, so to speak, but winning was for Christ, for bringing about the kingdom. The competition was not about outdoing the other, but about engaging in an encounter, navigating a relationship. As Brian Edgar claimed in our text, one of our texts, competition is not just about pitting opposing people against each other, but can be thought of as uniting opposing players in a common enterprise toward furthering something that is beyond the game. And we know how athletes from opposing teams have a profound respect for each other off the field or on the field. But if there is anything theologically redeeming about the Super Bowl or other sports events, it may be in the backstories, in the stories of human and humane integrity and endurance. Just by way of an example, I have a good friend that I met in college who grew up in poverty. He was very honest about that. His father left at a young age, and his mother was tenuous. She was in and out of the home. So he and his younger brother pretty much had to fend for themselves. But my friend made sure that he got himself and his little brother to school every day. And they were encouraged by teachers, and they found a kind of community in sports, and their coaches encouraged them. They both got football scholarships to college, and they wouldn't. And my friend said, if it weren't for these mentors and teachers and coaches, I would not. Not only would I not be here, I probably would not have survived. And he gives them full credit. And he became a teacher and coach himself. So this is a meta-narrative that I'm sure you've heard before, the best of what sport has to offer, a sense of family, of community, a way to well-being, to flourishing, even excellence. So this discussion calls into the question we've been addressing on how we define play. There is a sense that play is important in life, though understanding what constitutes play has been proven difficult, as we've seen. Is play an activity, a state of mind, or as Gadamer suggested in Truth and Method, a to and fro, a back and forth movement between subject and object, a game that plays itself? So in this course, I've been identifying, and you've been reading about Christian rhetorics of play, or ways of talking about play, and that fit in this matrix of play theories offered by Brian Sutton Smith and others. Sutton Smith's The Ambiguity of Play looks at the good and bad side of play, understood from a variety of perspectives. The Christian rhetorics of play vary widely, of course, but we've been looking at theologians such as Jürgen Moltmann, C.S. Lewis, Michael Koppel, and we engaged them in dialogue with the secular play theories. We could apply the arguments of these theorists on the role of play in human adaptability and emotional survival to the monster truck and toddlers and tiaras phenomenon to unpack their appeal and message, asking what about these actions and activities is play and what is not play. And some questions to ask would be, what is the difference between play and entertainment? Are we being cultural elitist in roundly denouncing these forms of entertainment? And what do these forms of play provide that is missing from society, and what can we learn from that? What do these forms of play reveal about gender identities and understandings of the body? So Christian rhetorics of play, as you've begun to put together and see, confront common practices and understandings with its themes of imago Dei, incarnation, transcendence, liberation, eschatology, and sanctification, that suggest a critical reformation of these understandings and practices. Just to review, play is a byproduct of being created in the image of God, and how play is an act of Christian incarnation, which allows transcendence and healing liberation toward ultimate being with God. Situating play within these themes, these theological themes, provides a framework for confronting worldviews espoused by trendy, consumerist, and sexist leisure activities and culture. Courtney Goto calls playing revelatory experiencing that leads to new meanings. It is living as if and involves the practice of wonder. So using Michael Koppel's idea that play is crucial for pastoral ministry, we can begin to unpack that pivotal role of Christian ministry in shaping how play is practiced and how it is a form of ministry and how play could be a means of grace in which we experience freedom from constraints of stereotypes and oppressive understandings of power, and reclaim our connected humanity and revel in a delightful relationship with God. So in part 2, we will look at child's play and what adults learn from it, and godly play, as espoused by Jerome Berriman and others, and the role of imagination and wonder.